The story is often told of the most unusual penance street. Philip Neri assigned to a woman for her sin of spreading gossip. The 16th century saint instructed her to take a feather pillow to the top of the church bell tower, rip it open, and let the wind blow all the feathers away. This probably was not the kind of penance this woman, or any of us, would have been used to. But the penance didn't end there. Philip Neri gave her a second and more difficult task. He told her to come down from the bell tower and collect all the feathers that had been scattered throughout the town. The poor lady, of course, could not do it, and that was the point Philip Neri was trying to make in order to underscore the destructive nature of gossip. When we detract from others in our speech, our malicious words are scattered abroad and cannot be gathered back. They continue to dishonor and divide many days, months, and years after we speak them, as they linger in people's minds and pass from one talebearer to the next. How our words can build up or tear down. Edward P. Sri, September/October 2010 issue, Lay Witness magazine. The story of the good saint, no matter how many times over I hear it, always brings home to me the point that we ought to be circumspect in our speech, because the implications of a phrase misspoken can sometimes lead to untold misery for other people. And once something hurtful is uttered, it is out there for good, and can never ever be taken back. This is also why I think it is wrong, and frankly quite disturbing, for the leader of the most powerful nation on earth to be tweeting out his private and knee-jerk thoughts to the world, for all and sundry to read. Political leaders, and especially those privileged to run the most powerful nations on earth, have a special responsibility to be responsible, no pun intended. Their actions, and indeed their words, can have profound and lasting consequences on literally the fate of this planet. When former U.S. President Ronald Reagan called on Soviet Premier Mikhail Gorbachev to tear down that wall, referring to the Berlin Wall that once divided Western and Eastern Europe, his challenge eventually led to the collapse of the Soviet bloc, and ended decades of the Cold War. Leaders like Reagan knew that their pronouncements are never to be taken lightly, and thus before making any public pronouncements, they weigh each phrase, measure every word, with utmost care, to ensure that it conveys exactly the meaning that they intend it to. Which is exactly the opposite of how the current leader of the free world goes about his public pronouncements. There is, to me, a useful purpose to be served by social media. Its real-time nature, and the broad reach of its message, is unprecedented in the entire history of our species. When used properly, it connects people across borders, and fosters a level of understanding that potentially brings us closer together. However, when abused, it has the power to obliterate goodwill among nations that takes years to build, and erodes trust among allies that future generations of leaders have worked very hard to achieve. Last week, the leader of the free world demonstrated the latter effect.